In the days of um, scholarship about a protege of Confucius, his name's Mencius, there was, for some scholars, a belief that he had a unified refrain, that he could be reconciled in seemingly paradoxical or contradictory things he said. And another scholar who read him very closely and studied his life came to the conclusion that his opinions evolved over time, and that if you put them into a chronology, the change is understandable in the stages of his development. Of course, anybody who has lived an academic life or who's changed their mind about something would understand this. That's not necessarily a contradiction so much as a evolving point of view. Well, we live in a society that has asked of us, because of its diversity and because of the complications, because people are shifting in their views over time, that we accept a certain amount of friendly or logic in the way things play out. And doesn't do much good, to assume one can solve all the problems, for example, of equity with neoclassical economics, when some people are more materialistic than others. If you look at the problem of immigration, you have a situation where the migration is considered a demand, and the manpower that's desired from the um, in country, the country that's in being immigrated to, is considered one of the forces of wage equity structure that develops as a result of meeting this demand. But it's not that simple. People come with goals, aspirations. They may even trade a little more affluence for a new place where they just still feel trapped. So it's not um, reasonable and beneficial for us to try to reconcile all of the different um, styles of learning, understanding, difference of opinion, changes in society, and in personal life. Some people make personal decisions, some people make decisions within their family. So there's a world of diversity to be considered, not to justify um, uh, imbalanced judgment, but just to say that there's a diverse range of feelings about things like that. And as a result, we live with accept a certain amount of illogic. Another philosopher, not Mencius, but Nietzsche, who has certain kinds of contradictions built in, is understood by some scholars of being um, a man who relished the friction caused by contradiction. He put out a contradiction just to generate adrenaline. So it became like a drug to be contradictory, be paradoxical. So again, we live in a society where there's a certain amount of illogic, and for academic reasons, there's no reason not to discuss challenging views. I mean, there's no reason not to heed Black Lives Matters when they say that affirmative action is an important statement in showing awareness of Black others as being enterprising and intelligent and capable, but denied opportunities to white people receive as a gift of privilege from bygone days past. there's no reason not to engage these critical race theories. But what happens when you begin to put an idea like of structural inequity needing to be remedied is that um, it can become extreme because our society has been integrated into the global hopes of human destiny as a result of globalization processes, globalism, global welfare views, the United Nations, the climate crisis, the potentials of sustainability, theories of sustainability in environments that have traditionally been rooted in the oppression of colonialism and power. Now, Donbas is in the news because there's some discrepancy about 13, 14, 15,000 deaths. I've watched Russian POWs. So far, they've fallen into two camps. One are people who decisively understand that what they were asked to do was wrong, and they barely can bring themselves to plead for mercy. They say, "We did this, we're wrong, and we understand your feelings. Take us for what you will." And the other who are just feel totally dragooned. They've been thrown into the um, gunfire as cannon fodder. And there's a certain amount of understandable, but for me, unnecessary gloating over the body count by Ukrainian forces. I don't um, think it's unfair combat. I mean, they're the ones that are outgunned and have been attacked. But it's hard to believe that the leader of Russia cares whether it's 29,000, 28,000, 27,000. I mean, Lyndon Johnson used to plead for more troops, more this, that, more this, that, more this, that. And I don't think he ever really cared about the individual people who were losing their lives, certainly not the strangers. So, what we have in Uvalde is a situation simultaneously that asks us to believe that this was a trigger happy punk who discarded all of these people without any kind of input from these global vision stooges who've been pulling these things in a lot of different places. And I happen to wonder, my research has been versatile and varied because I was a library clerk. I don't play all big. I know I'm not a librarian. But when you look at the fact that my work at the cinema, for example, crossed into the study of police society because of what I learned about what was going on in Axis cinema. And a very good example is the film Serpico. DD is the prominent factor in the murder of Martin Luther King and genocide pornography, yet as a moral calculus measurement stick in the story of the Bird Letters or Texas School Book of Gail Burstyn, whose look-alike appears on a Robert Fripp album, God Save the Queen, and also in formerly in Seattle Center. They took that mural down, thankfully, but it was up for a long time, playing the violin in Seattle Center. Anyway, D.D. Allen is the opening credit in the film Serpico, and they were policing against the film Serpico, although it glamorized Officer Serpico and his performance and his martyrdom. it also barred against real romanticization of internal affairs, because internal affairs would have asked questions like, what is DD supposed to mean? And Allen and Woody Allen made a movie, everything you wanted to know about sex, but were afraid to ask. Well, don't be afraid to ask what Didi was doing in this Neva pornography script. Okay, so you get this blood curdling Sedlence's menu roster in the letters. She says, take away my eyes. Sometimes I'd rather be blind. When they were accusing me of things I had nothing to do with in Pittsburgh, one of them said, a librarian. Barry Chad said about my deafness, you're lucky you have that. So they're doing this organ barter stuff, and then they go out and commit these massacres, of innocent people to settle as a form of settlements in their mayhem, in the psychological network of PlayStation ideas. So what I see in this is a situation that involves this gang that comes from Britain who constantly root themselves as being concerned for children and so forth. I mean that even in Kiss of the Spider Woman, they had a Nazi German bringing his fiance or whatever to tears with stories of the all poor black people they were rescuing in Ethiopia. One of these English says God is always on both sides. Well, he thinks he's God, and that means lying to your face and biting you in the back. Then that's their idea of being on both sides, and it's very difficult to fathom this kind of cunning because they completely scuttle the issue of what happened in the 80s with AIDS and Reagan, when Amanda Harcourt, their attorney, came and said the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Now, what everybody realizes from monkeypox, from COVID-19, is the failure to address from the onset social distancing and being careful until it's under control makes it a blaze. Well, they had even a metaphor in the letters about horses running to a burning barn. That's the last thing you want, is to panic horses and blow into flames, because they'll all panic and run. And yet that's exactly what these people did. And what did Harcourt say? The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There's a 13,000, 14,000, 15,000, 19,000, 30,000. It doesn't matter, because the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. And when you look at the situation with internal affairs, you know, we need to have in places all over the society feedback into citizen review boards so that people who are in internal affairs have feedback for normalization processes that tend to be protective. And we need to glamorize and romanticize internal affairs more than we do. We are, after all, out to catch a commandant.